Namaste, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. It's Dr. Danny. If I could get a sound check from anyone who is listening. I'm just waiting for my screens to populate with the broadcast. We are broadcasting in YouTube land. We are also broadcasting on Facebook. We are also broadcasting on Rumble, guys. So we are triple casting here, and it looks like it's all working out. So, all right. Thank you, Ultimus, for the 5x5. Cool. What a beautiful Friday. Happy Friday. It's Venus's day. Hello, Lori. Thank you for coming. Wonderful, wonderful. So today I wanted to do a kind of a lecture, kind of a teaching, but more around aspects. How do we figure out what they are? Why do we feel the way we do about them? What do they mean? What kinds of aspects are there? So I thought that'd be nice, a nice review for those of you that already know about astrology, and then something to get you excited if you're learning astrology. Another thing that you can look into other than just the planet, sign, and house. Yes, thank God it's Friday. Actually, I have had a really magical day. It's been very nice. I woke up and I went to a doctor's appointment. I went to get my testosterone pellet, and I did a little Jeep chat on the way up there about hormone replacement, menopause, that kind of stuff. So that'll be coming out over the weekend. And I took a different angle shot of the Jeep so you guys could see the Jeep ducks. And so hopefully that'll be a cool little thumbnail. Then I went for a ride on my electric unicycle. That was nice. It's been really, really fantastic weather here, clear skies. And we are getting ready for our Halloween party this weekend. So we have some friends from out of town coming in. And oh my gosh, we're just so excited. So we had to go through the boxes and get all the old stuff out and, see what doesn't work anymore. So I've been doing that today. And then I wanted to go through this with you guys. So the way that it's going to go is we're just going to do like a brief, maybe presentation, 20, 30 minutes about aspects. I'm going to talk to you about them. I'm going to, once you know what they are and how they work, then we're going to talk about why they're important, why we have these energies in astrology, house, sign, planet, aspect, and what that means, not to the collective. Sure, that's what we can only do with the general broadcasts like these, but also to the personal. And so I'm going to show you exactly what I did when I first got started, so that I could understand how the planets in motion right now were affecting my natal chart. I may or may not read it, but I'm going to show you how I did it. That way you guys can do that. So you can do exactly what I did, and you can grab your chart and you can take these notes. I'll show you what you're going to write down, and then you just basically go for it. You just, get your little reference manual and you start reading and you start thinking about what that might mean for you personally. Because when I do a forecast, I'm going to give you guys the forecast for the week. I'm going to talk to you about the general transits for the collective. There's a lot of Mars and Mercury action this coming week, so we'll dive into that. But the way that it affects you personally is unique to each individual. So, which is another theme that we're working on here. You are the template, and you'll see what I mean when we get into it. So, all right, we got a few afternoon delight watchers. Does anybody have any questions, fellow traveler? I thought about doing the THP need to watch the Jeep blog on your experience. Yeah, I'll get that out. It's actually okay. It's they numb you up, and then they put a little pellet under your skin, and then it takes a few weeks to get set in. But once it's there, then you have this nice steady state. Lasts about, 13, 14 weeks for women. So, Desra rules, Dr. Badass in the house. Yeah, I don't know if I'm a badass. I'm actually more of a lover than a fighter. But I'm learning to use my words to fight. So, yeah. Oh, you guys, Lori just put a link in there. If you want to check out your chart, you will need that if you want to follow along at the end of this video. I mean, if not, you can always just go get it later and then rewatch that part. Somebody suggested I use timestamps on these, and I think I can do that. It just means I have to go back and watch it. And sometimes I don't have an hour or 2 hours to watch myself. Although it is fun sometimes because I don't remember what I say sometimes. And then people will ask me questions. I'll go back and yeah, that's what I said. So I'll try to add some timestamps. Let's see what else is going on. Oh, yeah. The Mars class, you guys. Ugh, I'm so excited. It's like ready to go. We recorded all of these. I recorded all these modules for you. It took it's about 2 hours in length, but I broke it up. Mars in the elements. So I talk about Mars through, Sagittarius, Leo, and Aries, and then that's one module. So you have like 5 of those, and then there's a longer module where I take Mars through the houses with you. And what I do is I read what I've written that's in the resource document, but then I also go into it a little bit. Like I intuit a little bit. So those are wonderful modules. And then when we get together live on the 12th of November, we're going to record that, and I'm going to talk to you about Mars in aspect to the planet. So this aspect talk is really nice because when you want to look at your chart, you can say, what is Mars aspecting back to my natal chart, or what is Mars aspecting in my own natal chart to my other natal planets? Kakia from Southeast Texas. Hello. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. Awesome. Awesome. Cool. So, yeah. And then there is the guided meditation and activation also in that course, as well as a fire breath exercise just to get you into the heat of Mars, get that fire energy going so you can also experience it. A part of being an astrologer is to feel into these energies. It gives you a sense of compassion. So when someone is having an afflicted Mars, if you can feel into the archetype, then you can have a little compassion with them, and you can give them your best advice on how to deal with that. So that's what we're going to do. You are the template. All right, cool. Let's just take a look at this little solar weather here that happened yesterday or the day before. Did you all see this? So here it is. This was like late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. Do you guys see that number right there? That X3.33. And, I love synchronicities like that. When you are saying, I want a little bit of magic in my life today, please. Or you say, today's going to be a magical day. And then you wake up and you see this number. And even though it's associated with the solar flare, today's energy feels so much different than it did literally, I don't know, 5 days ago or 4 days ago when we last talked. So I don't know if you guys are feeling it. I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like things are finally evening out. Like there's a lot of energy, but it's stabilized a little bit. And it's good because we need to catch our breaths. From what I understand, that there's this active region that's rotating towards the Earth, that will spew off a whole lot of X flares. And the CME from this particular X flare will arrive sometime late tomorrow, early on the 27th. So go to Stefan Burns's channel if you want the nitty gritty and the beautiful graphics that he has about these things, but it's super interesting. And then, of course, these forums are also interesting. They share graphics too. So just, stay in line with your solar weather. All right, let's see. Oh, Desert Rules. To go through medical training for 15 years and to study astrology too. Yeah, pretty impressive. Well, I stopped watching TV a long time ago. And when you do that, you have a lot more time. So what I did is I programmed my own subconscious with, channels that taught soulful messages and, music that sounded good to me, and using my hands either for puzzles or craft projects, and, also to study. So yeah. Peace to the chat, the African Wolf. Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming. We're about to get into it. I am going to open this PowerPoint and teach you guys about aspects. So that's the last chart, but just take that image in for a minute. Let that sit in the back of your subconscious mind, because now we're going to go to the beginning. So what are aspects? Here's just some general ideas about aspects. This is why it gets confusing for people, because they will study the archetypes, they'll study all the signs, they'll study all the houses, they'll know all the planets, they'll know even what all these combinations mean. But then when it gets to aspects, it gets very, very confusing. So what I like to use the aspects for is to tell a story. So this is where you can actually sort of hone in your intuition, because what you're going to do is create one energy with the planet and the sign and the house. Then you're going to create another energy with the other planet, sign, and house. Whether they're conjunct, opposing, squaring, trining, it doesn't matter. You're going to have those two energies in your head. And then you're going to incorporate these general ideas as well as what the aspects mean on their fundamental level. So once you have those three pieces of energy, then you get an intuitive hit. That's what's supposed to happen. So, like, you take, I don't know, Mercury in Taurus in the first house, right? You've got this speaker that's very smooth, very easygoing, very in the moment, um, has a good sense of value, knows when something's worth something, even if other people might not. So that's that Mercury energy there. And then you've got Jupiter in the 10th house. I don't even know what, I guess that would be Aquarius. So then you have this square. So you have Jupiter in the 10th house in Aquarius squaring on this Mercury in the first house in Taurus. So what you think about Jupiter, this expansive, energetic, abundant, happy, spiritual energy in the 10th house, Aquarius, like big ideas, a spiritual leader, works in the spiritual realm, works on innovative ideas with this Mercury, but they're in a square. So how would you take those two? Would you take a challenge? Would you take a frustration? And that's how we're going to read these, essentially. So that's the process that you go through as an astrologer. And the instinct is to just kind of see that square and blurt it out. But you also want to look at the other aspects and take the whole story into consideration. And then there's certain geometries that you can hone in on, take all 3 points or all 4 points, whatever's in that geometry, and then tell the story. You want to definitely avoid polarizing any interpretation. Like, if you are getting an intuitive hit that might be negative or shadow energy, you can speak that, but it's also good to say this could manifest as this in this situation, or it could also manifest as this when this is healed, when this is integrated, when you can add in that based on your own life's experiences. But you definitely want to take into account the client's age. When you're speaking to someone that's 25 versus someone that's 68, the life lessons, the patterns that you see in the chart are going to be very different, especially if it involves planets like Jupiter or Saturn. So, like, a 25-year-old with a Saturn square something might be very different than a Saturn square for someone who's 68, because they've already gone through two of their Saturn returns. So they're a little bit more mature. They hopefully, at least, they know things. So you definitely want to think about that. The faster moving planet aspects the slower moving planet. So the moon in a natal chart is never aspected by something else. The moon aspects everything else because it's the fastest mover when we're considering a basic natal chart. The next fastest mover would be Mercury. Mercury aspects the sun, Mercury aspects Venus, Mercury aspects Jupiter. Okay, so Mercury can aspect almost everything except the moon, because the moon will aspect Mercury. Hope that makes sense. Whereas everything aspects Pluto, because Pluto does not aspect anything in your natal chart. Okay, it's different when we're talking about dynamic aspects, and I'll get into that in just a second. But basically, when you're thinking about the faster movers, they will aspect onto the slower moving planet. Now, there's a concept of major aspects versus minor aspects. We're going to get into all of it. I find that minor aspects will point out certain geometries that you really want to find in a natal chart. But if they don't, if they're just there in general, then they will also support the underlying story that you're developing with the major aspects. And the inner planets actually have a very unique situation when it comes to the aspects that they make, and we'll get into that as well. All right. So, what is an aspect? Well, the way that you can conceptualize it is if you are standing in the middle of a circle or a sphere, and you've got the ecliptic belt around you in a 360-degree fashion. You are standing in the middle. If you look 90 degrees to your right or left, you are creating a square aspect with your original position. So if I'm standing here and I'm facing you guys, and then I turn to my exact right, I have made a square with respect to me and the 2 points that those lines hit the circle. So what it looks like is a line that's drawn from this point to this point. And I'll show you what it looks like in a chart right here. So this moon and south node are squaring in this chart because they create a 90-degree angle with respect to the center of this circle. So all the degrees are represented here. This is a semi-sextile. This is a semi-square. This is a sextile. So the major aspects are the 60-degree sextile, the 90-degree square, the 120-degree trine, and then the 180-degree opposition and the 0-degree conjunction. So if you see these degrees, that's what they mean. And this is the symbol that you'll see on the line between the points on the circle, which represent the planets. So this chart has a lot of really good examples, right? So you can see that Neptune and Pluto are in a sextile. In other words, if I'm standing in the middle of this chart, they are making a 60-degree angle with respect to the center and the points that they hit. And we draw that like that, and we put a little asterisk there. The squares have a square, and the trines have a trine. And these are, this is a quincunx right here, which is a minor aspect. That's the only one I like to use on a regular basis because it points out the shape of a yod, which I've talked about in other chats. Okay, cool. So let me just make sure you guys understand that. If you have any questions about that or that wasn't clear. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Lisa Anjanette Lewis is dragging ass today. Well, get some rest. Get some rest. You'll feel better. I had a weird sleep cycle when that solar flare came through the other night. I woke up at like 3:30 in the morning and couldn't go back to sleep. So I just got up and did some, administrative type things. And then around 9:30, I woke my husband up and I said, my turn. I'm going to sleep some more. So that's what I did. Desert Rule says, thank God we were sleeping when it hit. Normally kind of knocks me down a bit. Yeah, I will get real sleepy if it's during the day. It always works. I'll look back and I'll see, oh, yep, there was a solar flare. Ultimus Hastings, no TV, too many books. Yeah, you read a lot. SW asks, what does it mean spiritually to be born breech? Ooh, that's an interesting idea. I'll have to think about that one. Maybe answer you in a different talk. I'll look that up. Lady Rock X. Hi, Dr. Danny. Hello. Welcome. Clear as it mud. If it's really not clear, I can cover it again. I just want to make sure that you guys understand what these lines mean. That's the part that tells us the story. So you can go around this whole chart and read all this energy, and the person is going to look at you and go, what? But once you start tying the story together with these aspects and you get your intuitive hits, it's like something magical opens up. It's like you can almost see the person or feel their energy. It's really, really interesting. So Lisa was up at 3 a.m. too. Yeah. I think it affects, it's crazy. It's crazy. All right. So I'm going to get back into the PowerPoint. And we're going to talk about each aspect, what it actually means. For those of you that know astrology, I'm sorry, this is a review, but it's always nice to kind of go back and understand what these things mean. Okay, so the first one, we're going to go through sort of the tougher aspects first, the ones that everyone says, oh, this can be a challenge. Because when you see them in your chart, you can look at it as a challenge, or you can look at it as a lesson, or you can look at it as decisions. It's usually like a give and take with tough aspects. So this first one is oppositions. And if you just think of a seesaw energy, right? If you have too much of one thing, it's going to weigh it down and the other thing won't have enough. So what you want to do with an opposition is find the middle road of those two archetypes. You could also suggest to them, like, let's say you've got, what's a good one? Like Venus and Jupiter. Okay. So you've got the relationship energy, you've got the beautiful energy, you've got the creationship energy, always inspired, ready to like be on fire with passion and arousal. And then there's this Jupiter, which is expansive and spiritual. And so, what would a balance look like? So, if this was like an overly aroused energy with Venus, then we might not be able to expand. Whereas if we're overly expanded, if we believe too much, if we have too much faith, we could be somewhat gullible and led into some sort of bad situation. And so the idea is to kind of tamp it down, bring Jupiter to the middle, bring Venus to the middle, and then those two energies will work very nicely in balance. Um, so yeah, it can pull energy away from one polarity as well and weaken very strong placement. So if you've got like the perfect Saturn, which I don't know what that would be, but if you if you had like the perfect Saturn and then you've got an opposition, say to Pluto, that can make it a tougher, more difficult energy for you. And Venus and Mercury in a natal chart will never, ever, ever have an opposition to each other or to the sun. So you'll never have, oh, I have a Venus opposing sun in my natal chart or opposing Mercury. You'll never see that. They're always clumped together in one quadrant of the chart. Okay, a square. So this is the opposition. This is when one planet is on the other side. So you have one planet here and one planet here, which would be this Pluto and Moon example. So that's an opposition. Squares usually feel like this is 90 degrees. This is the first example I showed you. This feels like an external catalyst. So this is a lesson in life that repeats itself until it's identified and resolve. And it can point to triggers or surprising events when transiting planets do a dynamic aspect to the natal energy. And my advice is always to use it constructively, to either accept what's going on, to let go of something you're holding on to finally make a decision to do something that's a little bit uncomfortable, because the square is always a little bit uncomfortable. If you look at the guy in this graphic here, he's done a great job painting the floor, but now he can't get out, right? So it can feel like being trapped. It can feel like something that always happens to you. If there's a certain cycle, like if it's a 5-year cycle or a 6-year cycle, it could be related to Jupiter. So it just really depends on what's going on in your own natal chart. And then again, with squares, Venus and Mercury will never form a square with the sun or with each other. They're just too close to each other to do that. All right. And then there's the geometry of the T-square. So if we have a square right here and an opposition and another square, then you get what's called a T-square. So we have two oppositions. This is a mystic square, which I think I talked about in a previous talk, but basically it's a life lesson. So when you have an opposition with two squares to another point, then you've got a major life lesson. That's what that looks like. And so it's one opposition, two squares. This is a major life lesson, a major tension that always repeats itself. And it's a non-constructive pattern. So it's just like with a regular square where you accept, let go, and decide, but then you use the other aspects to the points involved in the T-square for solutions and guidance, right? So how would you tell this story, right? There is, let's see, we've got Pluto squaring the nodes, for example. But we've got a sextile with Neptune and we've got a trine with Uranus. So what might that mean for that person? Because the skip step or the tension is always involving energy around spiritual power, which would be that Pluto there, and their destiny towards finding themselves and have their knowledge of relationships. So there's power struggles here for this person. So how might they, attenuate that or learn from it? The lesson might be coming from Uranus over here in that nice aspect to Pluto. This is metamorphic transformation. This is freedom and power. So, this person may need freedom in order to use the power that they have in a constructive way, to really find out who they are. So you could read it like that. All right. So that's the T-square. And then there's the mystic square. And that is this energy where you've got Pluto, Moon, and the nodes. This is a mystic square. Okay. I often show people my pyramid when I have a mystic square in their chart. I see, can you guys see that? So if you have a pyramid here, which means fire in the middle, but if you look at it from an aerial view, you see two oppositions and four squares. Okay. So this is a mystic square. This is fire in the middle. This is your like creative fire, internal fire, creating a structure that encases it so that it can manifest here. So this can be amazing energy. It creates a strength, it creates a power, it creates leaps of evolution. Um, and it is generally speaking, when you start your journey, there's avoidance of this energy because it can be painful. But once someone has, an astrological consultation, they see this geometry in their chart, they look back and then they start working with astrology and looking forward. They see when these trigger points can come for them and then they can work on it. Right. So accept, let go, decide. And you can also use the aspects to all the points in the mystic square for solutions and guidance. So because this person has, this power struggle that we've already talked about. Now there's this moon in Cancer. There's this compassionate, emotional, private moon, power struggles with family. So, having compassion for family members, doing past life regression therapy, healing the ancestor line, that kind of energy could really help launch this person very powerfully onto their evolutionary path. But once they hear that, you see, in an astrological consultation, oh, I have to show you I didn't go back to it. So, back to that mystic square, right? So, Moon, Pluto, emotional power. This is in the fourth house. This would be the energy of like doing that past life regression, working on ancestor wounds, things like that. So that is the hard aspects. Those are the things that we look at in a chart. Sometimes they just jump right out and then you're like, okay, now I need to read this Pluto, these nodes, and this moon. And then you don't even look at the sun sometimes because what you're looking at is so, that's the story it's trying to tell you. And that's an intuitive hit. You should follow that. So let's look at conjunctions. So these are the nicer aspects. These are aspects where things are powerful. And so it's a combined energy. It's a power and it's a polarity of both energies. So the good and the bad of Jupiter with the good and the bad of Venus, you get those two together and they can manifest in all those ways, in balance to one another, in opposition to one another. Sun conjunctions are actually thought to burn up the other luminary unless it's an inferior conjunction. Now, there are only two planets that can do inferior conjunctions, and that's Venus and Mercury. They have an inferior conjunction between Earth and Sun when they are retrograde, and then they have a superior conjunction when they are on the other side of the Sun. So Venus and Mercury will have two conjunctions during their cycle. Mercury's 116-day cycle and Venus's 584-day cycle. So this is basically what I talked about. So when you look at the solar system and you see that either Venus or Mercury is between Earth and Sun, then they're probably retrograde in a chart. And these are also very powerful transits. So we, I think, have a Mercury retrograde coming up here at the end of November in about 4 weeks. So we'll be getting ready for that. The shadow period will start. This is what you'll see. So let's see, right here, I've got a inferior conjunction of Venus. So this is Earth, this is the Sun, this is Mercury and Venus. This is from Earth's perspective when we look at the chart. What we're going to see on the chart is Venus retrograde conjunct the Sun. Whereas when Venus is on the other side, the retrograde mark is gone and she's all the way on the other side of the Sun. Okay, so those are the special kinds of conjunctions you can have. Let's peek at that chart and see what conjunctions are available here. Yeah, so here we go. We have a Sun-Venus conjunction, but we see a retrograde Venus. So that means this is an inferior conjunction. This is a much more powerful Venus energy than if it was not retrograde, just because of the position of Venus during this person's birth. And it's the Leo Venus star point. So whenever Venus does her retrograde motion through Leo, anytime in this person's life, every 8 years, they're going to feel it. Now, if you look at their the Sun Venus conjunction, it's in a trine with Chiron. So there's some healing here. There's a flow of healing. We've already talked about, the conjunction, but we're going to talk about the trine next. So this is the combined energy, right? So you've got Sun Venus together conjunct in that chart, and it's trine to Chiron. So it's an easy energy. It's the best of both. It's a familiar energy, and it's harmonious. So anytime you see those angles of trines, that is good stuff. Then to top it all off, you put 3 of those trines together and you get what's called a grand trine. And these 3 points form an isosceles triangle. And it's considered an enormous source of strength, cosmic assistance, and alchemical power, and an unstoppable flow of beneficial energy. So let's look at that chart one more time and see what that feels like. So you see this person's chart, you see they've got that mystic square, but then you also notice, that Sun Venus, that Chiron is trine to the galactic center, where the center of the Milky Way is, where that veil is thinner, where a source comes through for us through cosmic downloads. It's basically the part of the sky that's associated with the ascended masters. So that kind of changes everything for this Sun Venus combination into trying to Chiron. We've got tremendous healing coming in from the cosmic with that combination of Sun Venus. So it fleshes out the story. It makes it stronger for us. And then there's the sextile, which is the opportunity. It's really never thought of as really, really good or really, really bad, but it's an opportunity. And a lot of people want to take positive opportunities. But if you're not doing your astrology consciously and you're just unconsciously blundering through the world, you may not know that you have a sextile or a doorway or an opportunity to use the energy. So you can use the best of it. You can use the worst of it. So what would a sextile look on this chart up here? Let's see. Yeah, we have this sextile between Pluto and Neptune, 12th house, 10th house. This is like surrendering to power. It is having a delusional attitude towards power. It's powerful delusions. I like to read this for the collective as surrendering to the transformation, because everyone, excuse me, everyone alive right now is going through this. They're going through some sort of, alchemical, astrological, divine energy transformation. And we're all trying to explain it and express it in our own crazy ways. All right, cool. So then there's minor aspects. And again, if you want to use these, you can. You don't have to. They, in my experience, will literally tell the story just with finer shades. So if there's something that's unclear, sometimes these are helpful to look at. Here's the definitions. A semi-sextile would be 2 different elements working harmoniously together. And the reason they say, this is funny though, they say that it's 2 different elements because when you look at a tropical chart, the signs are 30 degrees apart, all of them. But in constellational astrology, some constellations are smaller and some are larger. So you can indeed have a semi-sextile in Pisces, which is huge. So it would be water and water working together. But in general, the idea is like fire and water work together, or air and water work together. The semi-square is a subtle tension that we tend to ignore. So if you are talking with your client and maybe there's like, I don't know, there's something going on, I just can't figure it out, you might want to add the semi-square and it might point to what's happening. Then there's the sesquiquadrate, and it's a challenge. So what are we trying to work and learn to do? The quincunx is what I like to use, is the one I like to use on my charts. And it's an inner potential that's difficult to realize. And then the quintile is talents and potentials. And the quintile, if you have a perfect quintile star, that's pretty potent and interesting. Let's see. And then there's the starseed Merkaba, which is basically 2 grand trines flipped over on each other, and it creates this 6-pointed star. And if it's perfect, you get 6 sextiles as well. So whenever you see that pattern in the chart, you want to think about it, and you want to talk about what the points are. A lot of times the nodes will be a part of a Merkaba. And so their destiny is a big part of it. I always say legacy, like you're here to inherit something, either spiritual, physical, something. So, all right. How's everybody? Let's see. Norma White says, greetings, everyone. I'm new here, just popping in to say hi. And thank you, Dr. Danny, for sharing your knowledge. Much appreciated by myself and all your listeners, I'm sure. Well, thank you, Norma. Thanks for coming, saying that wonderful affirmation. Kakia says, I find myself new to a lot of things lately. Yes. Got to change it up every day. When I went riding this morning, I went in just a completely different direction. I was like, I'm just going to go wherever it feels. Desert Rule said, I had a really vivid dream last right at midnight when it hit that your BF was being mean to your cat. Oh, wow. Hopefully that didn't really happen. Cool. Good. I have a little bit more. Actually, I think we're about halfway through. So good. All right. Let's get back to it. All right. I'm going to mute this real quick. Okay. So when we're looking at aspects of a natal chart, now you guys know the story that the planets are trying to tell you about this person, that they're trying to figure out about themselves. And each natal placement is a unique signature. I mean, no two charts are exactly the same. Even twins won't have the same energy. So you've got your unique pattern, you've got your unique blueprint that is being used in that shadow time on that quantum level in the ether. And it is projecting a reality for your subconscious. It is doing that because of those positions. How you see the world, how you believe things, how you react to certain things is all based on this unique blueprint. And you are projecting that, emitting that, pulsating that outward, while at the same time, the sky, the sun and the moon, and all the luminaries are evolving and moving through their own pattern of time. You can think of it as a spiral moving upward in the dimensions, like they're just twisting in on themselves. And so from time to time, the sky in transit, the thing that we look at every day, will aspect back to your natal resonance. So if Jupiter is in a harmonious aspect, for example, to your natal Jupiter, right? You got Jupiter. Let's make a copy of Jupiter. So let's say the transiting Jupiter is out here somewhere, and it creates one of those beautiful harmonious aspects back to your natal Jupiter. You're like, wow. And you have a wonderful time. You have swelling of abundance. Everything just feels good during this transit. Well, at the same time, Pluto might be doing a square to something in your natal chart, the transiting Pluto. And these transits are called dynamic transits. So they're a little bit different. The aspects are dynamic aspects. The aspects in your chart are fixed. They will stay that way always. But then when the transiting planets are moving, they create these dynamic aspects. So a Jupiter square Jupiter will last for days or weeks. The faster moving planets are going to have very, very quick transits. So moon stays in a sign for like 2 days. Mercury is really quick too. So the transit to your natal energies by a Mercury or a moon energy is quick and brief. So it usually feels less impactful, less intense. Whereas if a slower moving planet is aspecting, for example, back to your natal moon, like you have Pluto in the sky conjunct your natal moon, because aspecting planets will always aspect back, or transiting planets will always aspect back to your natal planet. So we have this very slow 3 to 5 year transit of Pluto going forward and backwards through its yearly retrograde, pinging your moon. Okay, so if you've got a Pluto aspecting conjunct back to your natal moon, you're having an emotional transformation that lasts about 3 to 5 years. Okay, so, but if I might experience that Pluto totally differently because it's squaring my moon, or it might be conjunct my Venus. Okay, so you can have very different experiences with a Pluto on the cusp of Sagittarius and Capricorn, which is where Pluto is right now. And I think this is why tropical astrology can feel very accurate, because they do this. This technique is used in all forms of astrology, not just constellational astrology. So if you've been with me so far and you follow tropical, this should make complete sense to you. We still do this. The aspects are correct. The moon phases are correct. Even your houses can be correct when you go from tropical astrology to constellational astrology. But that last missing piece, who are we? Where are we? And what do we believe in? Really comes in with the constellational astrology. And so I did this the other day, and I thought this was really helpful for me to help verbalize what the difference is and why it's important. So I wanted to do this again. This is for today and tomorrow. This energy basically applies. And what you're going to see here, what I'm going to stretch out, what I'm going to stretch out right here is center front, is the tropical zodiac over the actual constellations. So this is what we're dealing with in mainstream tropical astrology. We've got Pluto on the cusp of Capricorn and Aquarius. We've got Venus in Sagittarius. We've got Saturn in Pisces. We got Mercury and Sun in Scorpio. Okay. But I want you to, I don't know if you can see this, if you can zoom in to this picture, but what you're going to see if you look at the constellation names behind these signs, you're going to see very different names. You're going to see Libra right here at the end of Scorpio. You're going to see Ophiuchus and Scorpio in the sign of Sagittarius. You're going to see Sagittarius in Capricorn, and you're going to see what is this one? Capricorn and Aquarius. And so it's off. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's off, and it's also too even. It's too perfect. So what we're doing, and I'm going to show you the sidereal or constellational sky right here. What we're doing in this kind of astrology is we are bringing out just the constellational boundaries. These were around forever. And for some reason, we hit a hiccup in our astronomy and astrology being a combined science. They were always one science. And I'm endeavoring to bring them back into one sacred science. But I get it from the religious people. I get it from the astronomers, so I have science and religion kind of yelling at me if we could just sort of agree that our astrology is based on these constellations. So Sagittarius in Sagittarius, Venus is in Libra, Sun's still in Virgo. Pluto is not on the cusp of Capricorn and Aquarius. Pluto's right here between Sagittarius and Capricorn. Oh, and I did get an email question from one of you guys about what this means. And I feel like Pluto's doing an evolutionary process. The end of Sagittarius is a critical degree, like what we spoke about on the last live. This is the last chance to really authentically identify your spiritual foundations, because Pluto's probably destroyed them from the top down, ground up. And so now you can start to build them from that authentic space, from the learning of the wisdom through Sagittarius. So what I see happening is that structures that we used to believe in, if they don't resonate with us authentically, they're going to necessarily wither away. They're going to suffer entropy. They're not going to have the life force and energy they once had. They'll be less satisfying to use, and eventually they'll go away. And there'll be new inventions and new ideas and new ways of doing things. So it's not all bad. It just means that the things that aren't serving us are going to fade away. So let me just show you the other side of the sky, because it's just as impactful there as well. This is tropical right here. So let me bring that to the front. So you can see perfectly evenly spaced signs overlaying our stars. And you can see that Jupiter's in Gemini, the sun's in Scorpio. But if you can zoom into this, if you can peek behind the band of the signs, you can see the constellations. And we have Leo and Virgo and Libra and Gemini and Cancer. Cancer's in Leo. Like, it's confusing. You've got the Pleiades in Gemini when it's actually Taurus. That's the constellation of Taurus. Pleiades is in Taurus. So we look at this one because this one has I mean, if you want to be precise, if you want to be accurate, if you want to help people, I think this is where we need to be going. And this is the true placement. We've got Mars just entering Cancer. We've got Jupiter still in Taurus. We've got Uranus at the beginning of Taurus. We've got the Sun in the last few degrees of Virgo, and it's a Leo moon today. So I wanted to show you that just so you could see the astrology that we're doing, that we're going to get into here. And then I wanted to give you this little graphic, because this is what personal transits do to your unique individual template. It's how the chords are played. So through that ether bubble or ether sphere that you create because of your unique template, now it's going to interact with the moving energies. And you get to work with it. You get to see these planets in motion, because once you start doing this for yourself, I'm going to show you a technique at the end that you can do. Once you start doing that for yourself on a regular basis, you will see how the planets move. You'll be able to monitor how you feel. You'll know where your lunar critical degrees are and what days they happen, and when people shouldn't mess with you. You know what I mean? Like, today is one of those days for me. I'm in a pretty good mood today, but if someone comes at me, it'll probably not end good, and I'll probably cry. So, today's an emotional day for me. I know that because Moon in Leo opposes my my natal moon. And that's what you'll figure out as you watch these planets move. How's everybody? Awesome. Awesome. The African Wolf. I'll definitely rewatch. Good. Look up. Good stuff. Quantum Mania. This is great to know. Thank you. Never knew the Merkaba was an astrological aspect as well. Yep, for sure. For sure. Cool. All right. I'm going to go into the aspects for this week, the general aspects, the field aspects, what the fields planets are doing to each other. And then I'm going to show you my technique for analyzing your own chart if you're interested in doing that. Okay, so let's get back into it. All right. These lives are so fun. Thank you guys for coming and listening to me teach this. This is a passion of mine to help make this easier for you. I found that the biggest chasm in the learning curve was connecting the dots with aspects. And I do brush over it, because once you get that intuitive hit with it, you're on fire. You just can't be stopped. So I want you guys to get to that threshold. All right. This map up here is what's called a transit grid or a time map. And what you're seeing in the left-hand column are the quicker moving transiting planets. In the middle column, you're seeing the aspect symbol that they are making to the slower moving transiting planet. Okay, so all of these are going to be faster than the planet that they are aspecting. And that's noted by the TR, which means transit. So this is the week of 10/25 today until the 1st. Oh, you guys, I'm traveling next weekend. I'm going to New Mexico for a retreat. I'm meeting up with some friends that I've been speaking with for a couple of years. We meet every couple of weeks or so and support each other through, just spiritually and emotionally through whatever it is we're going through. And it's astrologically based, it's spiritual based, and we are going to meet each other. And I'm so excited. We're going to spend Friday through Monday there. I'm going to try to have a recorded video for you while I'm gone, but I don't know the status of the internet. So I don't have any expectations for doing any recording while I'm there. But who knows? We'll see what happens. It's meant to be sort of a private thing, where we're all together, but we may do something live. I don't know. So yeah, this week, the lunar phase is from the 3rd quarter, which was yesterday, through the new moon. So the 1st is the new moon. The solar sign for this week is Virgo, from 40 degrees to 47 degrees, with a T-square to Mars and Pluto. And then the major aspects are, we'll just go through these in order. So we have got Mars in Cancer, sextile to retrograde Uranus until the 27th. And so if you take my Mars class, you'll know about this Mars in Cancer, what this energy feels like. Natally, it will feel different than when it's transiting. Okay, so it might not be that energy that just needs to focus on the self and divert the gaze from the family. It may be just a compassionate action taking the opportunity to be unique and different. And that may be all that is. Now it goes until the 27th. So for the next couple of days, that is a waning energy. We won't feel that anymore after the 27th. So it's peaking yesterday and it wanes away. Think of these as waves in the ocean. All right. Here it comes, it peaks, and then it fades away. So that's what you're doing. You guys are shakas up, gonna ride these waves with grace. Mars will also trine onto retrograde Neptune in Pisces. So this will be from the 25th to the 30th. You can see this blue line here. So this is what's happening in the sky. I haven't even talked about my natal resonance yet. This is just what energies are available. And so this is spiritual action, spiritual warrior. It could be simply not taking action because Mars is the planet of action. Neptune's kind of not about action, but sometimes non-action is the best action, right? Peace through strength kind of energy. So it could feel really good. We may be a little bit frustrated depending on where our Mars is because inaction doesn't feel good natally, usually to Mars. So it just depends on where your Mars is and how your Mars is being aspected. I know I definitely don't like to sit still. And so for me, it'll probably be just actively trying to do peaceful activities, because I'm always doing something. So for me, I'm going to have to like figure out how to not do something that week. So it might be a little bit hard for me. The next aspect is Venus in Scorpio and Ophiuchus squaring onto retrograde Saturn in Aquarius. This will be about a 2 to 3 day transit. And whenever you have Venus and Saturn together, even if it's a tougher aspect like a square, it can feel pretty good. So you might be all of a sudden inspired to make a responsible decision, where Venus tends to like create and sort of go with the flow and not really feel too rigid or structured. She may just sort of come up onto a point where, okay, I need to divert myself this way. So there might be a turning point here, depending on where your Venus and Saturn are. The next few transits over the Halloween festivities and over the weekend are Mercury, very busy, opposing Uranus, trining onto Neptune, and trining onto Mars. So Mercury, they're quick transits. It has to do with our thought processes. Mercury is in a position right now, astronomically, in an approaching phase to Earth, and will turn retrograde here in about 3 weeks, where his energy is very, very intense. So any kind of wave that you get with Mercury right now is going to be more intense than it would be in other points in the cycle. Mercury and Uranus are octaves of one another. So Mercury is busy in the inner solar system, going back and forth, transmitting ideas and thoughts and commerce. And Uranus is out there in the cosmic, just sort of downloading all the new permutations of the thought forms in the ether. Okay. And so this needs to be a balance here. We're getting these crazy ideas, but we also need to deal with reality too. We also need to keep the peace with balance in Mercury and Libra. So this in general, I think, can be a very good energy, but we don't want to go too out there, and we don't want to be too busy and in the right here, right now. Mercury trining onto Neptune can feel really good too, and I think Neptune will still be retrograde. Yeah, let me just fix that. And so will Pluto. Actually, no, Pluto's direct right now. So retrograde. Mercury trining onto Neptune is communicating the spiritual energy. It could also be, Neptune can be also illusion and the media. So it could be a communication of deception of some sort. Trines tend to feel nice, but if you bring in the collective energy, the trine would just be a flow. So if Mercury's being devious and Neptune's being delusional, that trine would work very nicely together, and it's nice energy for delusional deception. All right, so you want to be very careful about like what you hear, what you take in, what you channel, what you expose your subconscious to during a Mercury trine Neptune retrograde. And then Mars opposes Pluto. So this felt much more explosive to me than what I'm actually experiencing. But once again, and I've even talked to people with this actual aspect, and it's not that bad emotionally, because this is like action to transform, and there's no emotion around it. It's just happening. So I think it's a much better energy than what I first thought it was, even though Pluto is at the critical degrees of Sagittarius and Mars is now in Cancer. It's not really a fiery Mars here in Cancer. So that may be a reason why this doesn't feel so powerfully active. Now, we could feel this as, Mars moves into retrograde and, goes back and forth over this opposition. We may be frustrated because, this might feel like you can't do something or you're being held back. And if that's the case, there could be some kind of explosive energy. So just keep your eyes on that. We're with Mars and Pluto like this for a long time. Longer transits tend not to be as tumultuous as those quicker, nastier transits. And then finally, Mercury trines Mars. And this is just brilliance. This is like thought forms that are well formed. This is taking action for the truth. This is just really nice. This is intelligent, focused, keenly authentic energy with Mercury trining on Mars through the first and the second. So that's great. So we're going to be meeting, me and my friends, during this Mercury trine Mars, during a new moon, with all the chaos in the world. And we're just ducking out and getting together and holding space for each other. So I'm really excited about that. All right, let me see if you guys are still with me, and I'll show you my cool trick. It won't take long. Hopefully you guys can do it. Good time for conception. Yep. All right, Lisa's got to go. She's going to rewatch later. Thank you, Dr. Dana. You're welcome. Lookup says, thank you. You're an amazing teacher. Oh, you guys are so sweet. All right, here it is. Here's how you work with this every single day. If you're just new to studying astrology, maybe you understand the archetypes, maybe you get the planets, maybe you've been taking my classes, but how do I pull it all together? You have to do this for yourself. This should be a daily, every other day, as soon as you can, a couple nights a week. Just really sit down with your own chart and the actual sky and do this for yourself. Journal what you find out and then see what you experience. Sometimes it's easier to go back in time to get a chart from a previous date so that you can say, okay, like a date that something happened, and see if you can find it. See what's resonating with your natal chart that would have made that thing happen. Okay, let's get into it. And so when you can have these stories for you, then you've got stories for other people's charts. You get reminded of it, and then you just relax and let that intuitive hit come to you. Okay. So this is the current sky right now. And I want to know, how is that going to affect me today? Like what's happening with me today? So what you're going to do is you're going to go to that free chart calculator. You're going to print today's chart so that you have it as a reference, or you're just going to keep it on one window. Then you're going to go back to it or open it up in another window, and then you're going to create your natal chart. So you put your day, your time, your location, and you print your natal chart. So I've done that. So this is mine, and this is the sky right now. And since I can't draw with this software, I went ahead and I brought in these little icons to show you what I did. I would print off my natal chart, and I would literally write in where the stuff is. So for example, Pluto is right on the cusp of Sag and Capricorn. So I put Pluto right here. Pluto's hanging out right here at the edge of my 8th house on my chart, because we're in the exact constellation. Do you see why this has to be exact? If you're using constellational energy, you want to know exactly where things are. Venus is in Scorpio. So she's right here over my Neptune in my 7th house. Let's see. Saturn is in Aquarius. So I put Saturn right here, who's been conjunct my Jupiter for a little bit, in my 10th house. Here's Neptune in Pisces, also in my 10th house. I didn't grab the nodes, but the North Node is over here in my 11th house. Uranus is about to cross over into my ascendant next year. Jupiter, because they're in Taurus, you see that? It's the 6th house on this chart when I generated it, but for me, natally, Jupiter is in my 1st house right now, conjunct my South Node. Okay, so let's see. And then Mars is conjunct my Mercury in Cancer in 2nd house. And Sun is in Virgo, about to enter my 6th house. Mercury's in Libra in my 6th house. Okay, do you see how we did that? So this Mars over here is in the 7th house, but if I write Mars in the constellation that it's associated with today, then I can see what it's affecting in my natal chart. And then I know that there's this opposition. So Pluto is opposing my natal Mercury because Mars and Pluto are opposing each other in the sky. I hope this is clicking. I hope this is making sense for you. Let's see. Where did we put the moon? The moon is in for Leo right here. So the moon just went over my natal sun and is now opposing my natal moon. Remember that critical degree? This is a critical degree for me, you guys, because it always opposes my moon and it's right after it crosses my sun. So these are emotional days for me. Let's see, sun right here, about to go into my 6th house, Mercury and Libra. Yeah, so that's how you do it, guys. So you could say by proxy, because I have a natal Jupiter trine Venus Saturn, that I am currently going through a Saturn trine Saturn, Saturn trine Venus. So, and then if you do this every day, you will notice that the moon is going to move. So every day the moon is in a different spot and accesses different parts of your chart. So this is an emotional awareness, because when you start to do this and you go, how is today emotionally? Oh, I felt this, I felt this. You will notice a pattern, I promise. It's the coolest thing ever. For some reason, I can't grab that moon. There we go. Come here, moon. I wanted to give you that example. Oh, well. The sun will move 1 degree every day. So you'll see sun move like this around the zodiac. And then what you'll notice with Venus and Mercury is they do this. They go back and forth over the year around the sun. All right. So now you are totally equipped after you've just done that small exercise to begin your notebook. I wonder if I have my notebooks here at fingertips length. I don't. I'm going to get that one day and show it to you guys. My original astrology notebooks where I did this, and I would date it, and then I would write down the aspects, and I would write down what I was feeling. Or, if I couldn't get to the astrology, I would at least write down things that would happen, and then I would go back and I would do this. And I would just sit down and I would interpret these energies. So yeah, you guys are the template. You are the natal resonance, and whatever this guy is doing is moving you and pushing you and resonating with you to bring you into alignment. Oh, I wanted to show you guys this. Actually, let me go back to sharing real quick, because this is always a cool visual to see why the aspects matter. Because this is where we are. I put the aspects onto these luminaries. This is the sky right now. Or this will be the new moon on the 1st, actually. So here it is. You can see your new moon trining to Saturn. You can see the opposition with Venus and Jupiter. And when you're in it, you can feel these things. These are energies that are blasting across the zodiac and influencing and affecting. You're right here. What happens with the collective, with you personally, depending on how it hits your natal resonance. Cool. All right. Well, you guys, that was that. That was my presentation. I hope that was helpful to you. I hope you can use that for your own practice to get you going. Then you can also predict and see transits coming for you. So if you've already experienced something with a certain transit, you go, okay, that's happening again. Or I know somebody who they were going through it. This is what happened to them. And you start building your database of memory, your Akashic record. Which website is this? On the screen at 2:03. Oh, the solar flares? It's spaceweatherlive.com. Is that what you're talking about? I can put it in the chat. Here you go. I think that'll work. So yeah, Malaya Norby, thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, that's updated like every 15 minutes, that solar flare website. And the discussion forums are pretty cool and pretty fun. I enjoy listening to those experts talk about what's happening. And then, of course, Stefan Burns. So, all right, cool. Well, guys, I have to get back to decorating. This has been a wonderful distraction, and I wish I could hang out with you all afternoon, but we are getting this place spooky. So, I love y'all, and I'll probably have a live for you. Let's see, mm, maybe Monday or Wednesday. I have to work Tuesday, so either Monday or Wednesday. But I'll have the Jeep chat coming out probably Sunday or Monday. So. All right, y'all. Have a wonderful Friday and weekend. I love you guys so much. Namaste.